Oh. 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 Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya-madhyamam Asmadacharya-paryantam Vande Guru-paramparam Shruti-smriti-purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad-pada Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badharayanam Sutrabhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahmavidvaram Sadgurum Brahmavidvaram Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham Hari. So far, we have seen the general qualifications to begin the study for gaining this Atma Jnana, self-knowledge. And then we also talked about some specific qualifications. Those specific qualifications were also enumerated. And they are the fourfold qualifications of Viveka, discrimination, Vairagya, detachment, Shamadhi, Shatka Sampatti, the sixfold wealth of values or disciplines, virtues, starting with Shama, and then finally Mumukshutvam, an intense desire for liberation. So all these four qualifications are very important for a sadhaka, for one to get this kind of abidance in the knowledge, to have the knowledge fully assimilated, to be established in the truth. And when these qualifications are not there, such an abidance will not take place. We had seen a detailed look into each one of them also. We are in that process. And we had seen so far, Viveka is a discrimination of the eternal from the ephemeral. separating the permanent from the impermanent. And that goes with a firm determination that Brahman is the reality and the world is nothing but mithya, an appearance. After that, in verse 21, the result of Viveka, what is born out of Viveka, tat vaira shravanadivihi dehadi brahma paryante yanitye bhogavastuni. The fallout of Viveka is vairagyam, dispassion, detachment for the pursuit of all that is unreal. You have determined that this, and this are only ephemeral, fleeting, etc. Why waste your time going after them? So you develop a detachment. And it starts from your own body. When you analyze, this body is impermanent one. And of course, all the objects of enjoyment that we have in this world, they are also impermanent. So you understood that and you start developing a dispassion for that. That is Vairagyam. Then we started the study of Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti, the sixfold wealth of disciplines. The 22nd verse defined Shama as Virajya Vishyabratat Dosha Drishtya Muhurmuhu Swalakshe Nityatavastha Manasaha Shama Uchate. The ability of the mind to withdraw from the host of objects, moment to moment. That is what differentiates this from Vairagyam. Constantly and repeatedly being aware of the dangers of the sense objects and pursuing them, thereby having an excellent control of mind, mastery over the mind. Keep the mind focused at the ultimate goal and not go astray with all other non-essential things. That is Sham. Then in the 23rd verse, we saw the definitions for Dhamma and Uparati. Vishayebhyah paravartya sthapanam swasva golake ubaya yesham indriyanam tadamah parikirtitah bahya alambanam vrittehe yeshoparatir uttama. Withdrawal of the senses from the sense object is Dhamma. And then keeping them withdrawn, that is Uparati. So we have seen all these so far. So we continue with the next discipline. Let us see what that is. Verse 24. Beautiful definition of titiksha is given here. Sahanam sarvadukkanam apratikara purvakam chinta vilaparahitam Satitiksha nigadyate. Satitiksha nigadyate. Sahanam sarvadukkanam apratikara purvakam chinta vilaparahitam satitiksha nigadyate. The fourth discipline is titiksha, which is otherwise called kshama or kshanti, not shama or shanti. It is kshama, or kshanti. Tattva Bodha defines titiksha as shitoshna sukhadukkadi sahishnutvam. In simple language, simple terms, titiksha means endurance. Endurance, forbearance, ability to endure unpleasant situations, forbear, capacity to endure pain without breaking down. Very important. That endurance, physical and more than physical. We are talking about mental. That is called titiksha. That is titiksha. Here it is said, sarva dukkhanam sahanam. Sahanam. Enduring, putting up with, tolerating, patiently. All kinds of discomfort, sorrows, pain caused by adhyatmika, adibhautika, adidaivikam, everything. Subjectively, our body and mind, disturbances to them, and then from the surroundings, and some unseen forces also. That is called titiksha. Titiksha. We say that titiksha is required because none of us will be totally free from pain, physical or mental. Sometime or other, we will get, maybe as simple as we are walking and we trip and fall, stub our toes, or it's a hard day outside and we are outside working, and then we get a headache, or we're traveling somewhere, and then you don't get the kind of food that you are used to. All kinds of situations are there. We will have to encounter them, put up with them, have the ability to deal with them. Life is never a bed of roses. Any human being, that's the case. And that's why we are asked to read Puranas. Puranas and Itihasas, when we read, we find all those characters encountered so many problems in life. So many. Loss of money, loss of children, loss of life, loss of this or that. Whatever problem you can imagine. You read about it. And this happens to Rajas, kings. Even when Bhagwan takes avatara and comes down, same is the case. So when we read the Puranas, Itihasas, we come to know we are not the only ones who suffer, who go through these painful experiences. Of course, nobody endures suffering exclusively. Nobody suffers only pain, 100%. Some people come pretty darn close to it. But generally, life involves dvandvas, pairs of opposites. You take the good and you take the bad. And that's what life is all about. Bhagavan Sri Krishna says in the Gita, Matra Sparshastu Kaunteya शीतोष्ण सुख दुःखदाः आगमा पायिनः अनित्याः तान् तितिक्षस्व भारत. O Bharata, Arjuna, you learn to endure. Titikshasva. Endure all this. Put up with this. So that is titiksha. Now, should we not seek remedy when we have problems? You are talking about enduring the pain, bearing that, grin and bear it, and all that. Can't you do something about it? Can we not take some steps to alleviate all that suffering? Yes, of course. Of course. Certainly, you should seek. Remedies are also given. But if you are constantly going to seek remedy for each and every little problem, and Puja Gurudev calls it pinpricks of life, and those things will happen. Paper cut. I'm going to make sure that I don't ever run into that problem. Then you have to cover yourself, wear gloves all the time. So, or when something happens immediately, some prayaschitta, then your entire life would be a life of prayaschitta only. Therefore, Bhashyakara says, Sarva Dukkhanam Sahanam. Endure these problems, put up with them. Also avoid pratikaram. This is another thing. Tit for tat. Instead of revenge, learn to endure so that you have time for something greater. Retribution. That is the word today that's being tossed around. And don't you do that. Apratikara purvakam. Without retaliation, without retribution. When another person is causing problems for us, we begin to hate that person. We want to take revenge, get back at him. The idea of revenge is very natural. Here, hatred and revenge are criticized. When there is love, the person wants to only correct the other one without punishing. In the case of revenge, we want to give the other person pain only. Why should we give pain in return? And when that happens, it never ends. The other person begins to retaliate. So, tit for tat, going back and forth. This continues. Can never put an end to it. Therefore, whether correction or love are the motives, whether inflicting pain and revenge is the motive, that is the difference. There are some people who do not want to take revenge and who also want to endure. And they constantly say, what cannot be cured has to be endured. Even though they have such a mentality, the problem is chinta and vilapa. They will entertain constant dejection and depression. That man did this to me, this man did this to me, she said this to me, go on repeating, being disappointed, depressed, frustrated, thinking of suffering that the other person caused me. That also is useless. The very purpose of endurance, this forbearance, titiksha, is to move on, get on with life, utilize the rest of your life. the time and energy for healthy pursuits. If I just grin and bear the situation, you will just be grinding your teeth. That's all. If my mind is going to feel constantly that I'm suffering, such endurance is no good. He does not curse others, but he cures himself. Chinta, self pity. Chinta is self pity. He's constantly suffering mentally. He's not taking revenge for whatever reason. Maybe he's incapable. Sometimes we are not powerful enough to take on the other person. So you bite your lip, bite your tongue, but you keep thinking. Chinta or vilapa at the verbal level. Is depressed, goes on grumbling and mourning. And anybody who would listen to the sob story starts. He will distribute his grief freely to everybody around. That is another problem. Somebody asks, I say, I have no complaints. Some problems may come in life, but I don't want to complain about this person, that person constantly. Sharing your feeling is one thing. That is different. Mhm. But criticizing constantly, day in and day out, talking about it, that is called chinta and vilapa. So rahitam, without doing that. Your endurance should be, that sahanam should be without that kind of complaint. Nobody likes to listen to somebody who is complaining all the time. Something or other, they'll be complaining. A Vedantin alone can have such an endurance, and a person with such an endurance alone will have the inner um, peace, leisure, calmness, and that would be the quality time for Vedanta and Vichara. That is why we need that badly. Otherwise, there might be external time, but internal time will not be. Sitting alone, not going here and there, you will just be engrossed in all this mental. You become a mental case. Therefore, titiksha is very important. Very important. Bhagavan says again in the Gita, Yam hina vyatayantyete purusham sharshaba samadukha sukham dhiram somrutatvaya kalpate. Such a person with this endurance power, he or she alone is fit for amrutatvam, for moksha. That is why our scriptures prescribe, ask us to do tapas, penance, austerity, to build titiksha. Tapas is self-imposed. Tapas is you bring it on yourself. You fast one day a week or every Ekadashi. There's plenty of food at home in the fridge, or these days you can just order online and 20 minutes or less it's there. Not a problem. But you don't eat. You bring it upon yourselves. That is tapas, so that When such situations arise, not because of your volition, but it is thrust upon you, you can handle it. Okay. So this is titiksha, a very important virtue, value, discipline that every sadhaka, spiritual seeker, must have. If you are lacking in that, start with some tapas. Continuing, Shraddha, we will talk about Shraddha, another important topic. शास्त्रस्य गुरुवाक्यस्य शास्त्रस्य गुरुवाक्यस्य सत्यबुद्ध्यवधारणम् सत्यबुद्ध्यवतारणम् सा श्रद्धा कथिता सद्भिः का श्रद्धा कथिता सद्भिः यया वस्तुपलभ्यते यया वस्तुपलभ्यते शास्त्रस्य गुरुवाक्यस्य सत्यबुद्ध्यवधारणम् सा श्रद्धा कथिता सद्भिः यया वस्तुपलभ्यते. So far, we have covered Shama, Dama, Uparama, and Titiksha. Shama, mind control. Dama, sense control. Uparama, withdrawal. Titiksha, endurance. We've seen all that. We can translate Titiksha as patience also. Kshama, Kshanti, etc., or the other words. These are the 4 disciplines. Now comes the 5th one, Shraddha, faith. One word translation is faith, but we need to understand this word faith properly. And Tattva Bodha defines it as faith in the words of the Guru and Shastra. Now, faith does not mean blind belief. Keep that in mind. It does not mean blind belief. Trust me. No. Ask me questions, as many questions as you want before you believe what I say. Suppose I see there is a contradiction or something illogical in the words of the teacher or what the Shastra says. In the name of faith, do not swallow that. That is not what faith is. That is not faith. But at the same time, do not reject the statement also. If I blindly accept without the intellect approving it, it is blind faith, blind belief. If I reject the statement, that is non-faith. We do not require blind faith. We do not require, or we should not have blind faith. We should not have non-faith also. We should have a healthy faith. What is healthy faith? If I see any logical contradiction, I don't say the statement is illogical. I say maybe my understanding is not quite right. I have not understood properly. Instead of blaming the statement, I question my understanding. And so to get clarity, I analyze what was said once again. I clarify with the teacher. And you do that as long as it takes you to get that clarity. And when I do that, my understanding will get revised. With the revised understanding, I again try to understand and see if it is still a problem. Is there still some logical contradiction? Then what do I do? So I can try. So many examples we give as we study, especially various Upanishads. When we study, there are so many contradictory statements. Annam brahme, brahme tevyajanat, prano brahme tevyajanat. 5 times Bhrugu comes to the teacher. We will study this in Taittiriya Upanishad, Bhriguvalli. The teacher sends him back. Think about it some more. Analyze. What is Brahman, he asks. And he peels off each layer of personality. Each one he thinks is Brahman, Atma. So he thinks Annamaya is Brahman. Then Pranamaya is Brahman, Manomaya is Brahman. At each level, he is not satisfied. He did not criticize the teacher. He goes to the teacher and says, this, for these reasons, I think this is what it is. The teacher says, no, think some more. Teacher also gave him some clues, what criteria to apply and to inquire and all that. Thus, making inquiries repeatedly, finally arrived at the right understanding of the scriptures. In the correct understanding, I would not see any logical contradiction or experiential contradiction. It should not contradict your anubhava. So what is said in the Shastra should be corroborated with logic and experience. Until arrive at that, I do not dismiss what the teacher says or what the scriptures say. I question my understanding. I need some more work to do. This kind of faith in the teacher and the Shastra, that is very healthy. That's what we are talking about. Therefore, he says, Satya Buddhi Avadharanam, ascertaining the truth through Shastra. Satya Buddhi means Pramanya Buddhi. That the Shastra is an independent source of knowledge. Accepting the scriptures as a valid means. It is a source of knowledge. It's a valid means. It's an independent source of knowledge. I want you to understand this idea of independent source of knowledge. I'll talk about it a little more. Unlike the material sciences, we are all familiar with so many sciences that we have studied in school and college. There is a difference between physics words and chemistry books and all that. The words of physics and chemistry, they are not independent sources of knowledge. You take a textbook of physics or chemistry, however well it is written, they are repeating knowledge which has been derived through perception and logic. And therefore, the words of science are not called pramanam, they are called anuvadaha. The physics book that you take and read and try to understand the physical laws, etc. Good only, nothing wrong in what they say, but it is not pramana. But it is only an observation that Newton and Einstein and various other physicists observed and talked about and wrote about. Since it is not an independent source of knowledge, they are verifiable by perception and inference. So whatever that's written in those books, you can conduct an experiment, verify that. If Newton did an experiment and discovered something, I can also verify, doing the same experiment, make sure I get the same results, and thus ascertain. In all sciences, medical science, etc., somebody comes up, they did some original experimentation and came to conclusion, and those results have to be verified, replicated. Ascertain. It's good, should be done. The difference is, whereas Vedas are not presenting a knowledge which is derived through any perception or inference. If Vedas also come under that category, it will not be called pramanam, it will be anuvada only. Physics is anuvada, chemistry is anuvada, zoology, botany, biochemistry, medical sciences, health sciences, all material sciences, they are all anuvada. On the other hand, Veda is pramanam. It's an independent source of knowledge. It's not derived through pratyaksha, direct perception, or anumana, through inference. What is not derived through pratyaksha or anumana cannot be verified through pratyaksha or anumana also. All the material sciences, you can repeat the experiment and verify. What is derived through Veda or known through Veda is an independent, Veda's independent source. The understanding is called Shastre Pramanya Buddhihi. This is the fundamental axiom when we come to Veda. So Pramanya Buddhi, that is called Shraddha. That is the faith. When I am looking to verify something with the help of the eyes, for example, my attitude towards the eyes is the knowledge that the eyes give is valid. Once the eyes reveal that a particular object is green, that is valid knowledge, because I have taken the eye as an independent means of knowledge for form and color. Of course, I'm assuming there are no defects in the eye, you are not color blind and all that. Okay. And don't bring such arguments. So eye is the valid means of knowledge to see form and color. Similarly, ears, nose, and all sense organs gives the knowledge about the respective sense objects. In the same way, Shastra is an independent source of knowledge. And just as I repeatedly use the eyes to get the right knowledge of form and color, to get conviction in the knowledge given in Shastra, I should repeatedly use Shastra only. This understanding is called Satya Buddhi Avadharanam. That is why whenever there is an analysis in Shastra, say a doubt is there in Mundakopanishad, clarify that, use Kenopanishad or another Upanishad or Brahma Sutra, which analyzes the Upanishads. You don't go to Einstein to read his original paper on theory of relativity to what is said in the Upanishads. Having a firm conviction that in the case of spiritual knowledge, that Shastra is the independent valid source, that is called Satya Buddhi Avadharanam. All that constitutes Shraddha. Therefore, another better reading is Satya Buddhya Avadharanam, accepting Shastra Vakyani, the words of Shastra, Guru Vakyasya, the words of the Guru, what is said in the Shastra and uh, what the Guru says, accepting them to be true. You do not know the truth, but you accept what the Shastra says and what the Guru says are true. When we start school, the teacher says, this is A, this is B. We accept. Then words are coined with letters. B-A-T, bat. And then the teacher shows a picture of bat. We accept. If the teacher says the distance between the earth and the moon is so many miles, we accept. We don't go out and measure to accept. This faith is funny. We are ready to accept the distance between the earth and the moon. But if we see a sign wet paint, we don't accept. We want to touch and see. How can I accept the Shastra and the words of the Guru without knowing? You can ask. If you know the truth already, what is that to accept? You know it. Therefore, faith is belief in something that you do not know. So the starting point is that only, but you believe in it so that later on you will come to know. I will repeat this statement. It's a beautiful statement. Puja Gurudev has given it in his commentary as a footnote. Faith is a belief in something that you do not know, but you believe in it so that you will come to know. That is where faith comes in. So Satya, first you accept, then Buddhya, with your intellect, Avadharanam, determine, verify, get conviction in the truth of it. It's not just that you accept and stop. No. First is acceptance. Next, you must find out the truth of it. That faith will motivate you to inquire further, verify the truth. That alone is called Shraddha. Otherwise, it's just a blind belief. I'll give a simple example. There's a poor man living hand to mouth. Then his friend comes in and says, hey, I hear from the executor of your uncle's will that you will inherit $10 million. And you have to take the following steps to claim that money. He can do a few things now. He can just say, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. You're just pulling my leg. Or he can say, I believe you, Huh? Somebody did tell you that. I believe you are not going to lie to me. But I had no contact with that uncle for so many years. It's highly unlikely that he would have left such a big amount, for me. I doubt it. Hmm? I'm not going to waste my time. A third alternative is, well, the information is coming from a trustworthy source. He's a good friend of mine. He won't lie to me. I will take the necessary steps. If I am successful, my life is changed for the better forever. If not, I continue as before. So the third alternative illustrates Shraddha. So we have to accept the words of the Guru, because all the words of Guru are derived from the Shastra. Remember, Guru does not have independent validity. If a person is not using Shastra, then his words are derived from Pratyaksha and Anumana. We hear a lot. Self-proclaimed gurus are there. So we have to be careful. A guru who has come in the traditional Guru Sishya Parampara, who has been taught the Shastras by his guru, such a guru, his words, you must have faith. Personal opinions, etc., etc. Anumana at best. Then the question will come, why should I go to such a guru? I can use Pratyaksha and Anumana myself. Therefore, a guru is a guru only when every one of his statement is derived from the Shastra. Said in the Shastra, in the Vedas, is Atindriya Vishaya. They are not available for Pratyaksha. They are not available for perception. The sense organs cannot perceive them. Your mind cannot think about them. Therefore, all the Shastric words are all corollaries derived from the Shastras, and that is what is given out by the Guru. The Guru talks about that only. He gives you that. The Guru may use logic to explain. All that may be there. Vedavyasa has done so in Brahma Sutra. Lot of logical analysis. It is called Nyaya Shastra. Still, the Shastra is the Pramana. This kind of unshakable faith, Sa Shraddha Katita, that is called Shraddha. We are not trying to prove logically what is said in Shastra, but only that Shastra does not contradict logic. For example, the scriptures talk about heaven. They say heaven is a place and there are devas, and Shastra says these devas are mortals. Now, the mortality of devas is not proved logically because it's not available for logic. Not available for logic. It's not available for observation or inference. Therefore, devas' mortality is not proved logically. But at the same time, it is not illogical. Since devas are all finite, they all can be and they all should be mortals. They became devas by doing some finite punya karmas. All that is there. So if Shastra were to say devas are immortals, it is illogical because finite devas cannot be immortal. Therefore, devas are said to be immortal, I would not accept that because it is illogical. But if on the other hand, Shastra says devas are mortals, I cannot logically prove because I don't see the devas, and I'm not I'm not immortal myself to verify. But I can say it is not illogical. Swami Chinmaya coins a nice word, illogical. It's neither logical or illogical. So he said it as illogical. That's not a word in English. Lexicon, it is not there, but it conveys the meaning. So it is said, Sa Shraddha Katita by Sadbihi, Satpurushas, Maharshis, they all call this firm faith as Shraddha. It's one of the most important qualifications. Therefore, Shankaracharya says, Yaya Vastu Upalabhyate, that by which alone Vastu, the reality, Brahman can be recognized. I cannot accept the very existence of the world without accepting the sense organs to be valid means for that knowledge, just as acceptance of the validity of senses is required to accept the world. Similarly, Brahman can be recognized only if the validity of the Shastra is accepted. Otherwise, there are many people who have Shama, Dama, Uparama, Titiksha, but do not have Shraddha. Their only faith is in this materialistic world. They still will not gain self-knowledge. They will not gain Brahman. That is why in Gita, Bhagavan says, Shraddhavan labate jnanam. A man endowed with Shraddha gains the knowledge of Brahman. And in the next line he says, Ashraddhadanah cha samshayatma vinashyati. The doubtful Tom perishes spiritually doomed. Shraddhavan labate jnanam. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.